When it comes to Spider-Man villains, most of his baddies are thieves and ne'er-do-wells, though a few of them also gained incredible superpowers. Since some of these foes, like Mysterio or Electro, would lose in a fistfight to an average guy at a bar, some fans are left wondering, who is Spider-Man's strongest enemy? Since Spider-Man has super strength, able to lift to 10 tons in his normal state, he needs villains who can knock him around if needed in a fight. While the strongest Spider-Man villains don't match up to those who fight Iron Man or Hulk when it comes to strength, they can still put up a good fight. But who exactly are the villains that could give the webhead a run for his money? Let's find out. But before that, we post videos like this every week with an occasional death battle or power ranking thrown in. If you feel like that is something you'd enjoy, then be sure to hit that subscribe button and sit back and enjoy the video. Craven the Hunter is by far one of Spider-Man's deadliest foes. Sergei Kravinoff enhanced himself naturally using potions he learned from his lover and partner Calypso that increased his strength, speed, and endurance. This would eventually lead him to become Craven the Hunter, and while he wasn't the most powerful of Spider-Man villains, his enhancements gave him the edge he needed to become a credible threat. In the Craven's Last Hunt storyline, Craven manages to defeat Spider-Man and buries him alive, taking on his identity to prove to people that he can be a better Spider-Man than Peter Parker, kind of like Doc Ock's superior Spider-Man. Craven has consistently been shown to lift weights which are well over 2 tons, and even then, his most valuable asset is his hunting instinct. His knowledge of guerrilla warfare tactics and acute tracking senses makes him far more of a threat than any other villain in Spider-Man's rogues gallery. There have been multiple incarnations of the Scorpion, but the most popular and widely recognized is Mac Gargan. Initially hired by J. Jonah Jameson to investigate how Peter Parker consistently obtains high-quality photos of Spider-Man, frustrated by his inability to uncover Parker's secret, Gargan becomes increasingly obsessed with the task, feeling humiliated by his failure to deliver the desired results to Jameson. In his desperation, Gargan agrees to take part in a dangerous scientific experiment conducted by Jameson and funded by a substantial reward. He is persuaded to undergo a procedure bonding him to an armored suit, intended to turn him into a weapon against Spider-Man. The procedure was successful, granting Gargan scorpion-like powers. However, it also triggers the unfortunate side effect of insanity. Consequently, Gargan directs his vicious and violent intentions towards seeking revenge on Spider-Man, blaming him for his condition and the mental turmoil he experiences. In The Amazing Spider-Man Volume 5, Mac Gargan becomes the temporary host for the Venom symbiote after Eddie Brock's attempted suicide. With the symbiote's powers, Scorpion was able to overpower and take down Spider-Man. However, once the symbiote separates from him, Gargan reverts to tormenting Spider-Man as the Scorpion. The Lizard, Curt Connors, was a genetic biologist who, like every villain, committed the classic mistake of conducting experiments on himself. He aimed to regenerate his amputated right arm. As expected, this experiment resulted in him transforming into a Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde type character. He is cursed with random and uncontrollable shifts into a power and violent lizard monster. The Lizard stands as one of Spider-Man's most compelling villains because of Connors' close ties with Peter Parker. Connors, as himself, doesn't desire to be a monster. His only intention is to heal himself. It's his alter ego that inflicts harm. Connors experiences intense guilt and remorse for the havoc caused by the Lizard's actions and desperately seeks a cure for his condition to revert to his human form permanently. But more often than not, in the internal struggle between his consciousness and the primal instincts of the Lizard, it is the Lizard that takes over. Flint Marko, otherwise known as the Sandman, started as a petty criminal before evolving into a supervillain. After radiation exposure, Marko gained the capacity to disassemble himself into grains of sand and manipulate his form completely. Despite occasional attempts to use his abilities for good, he often reverts to criminal activities. His untapped strength is often attributed to his lack of ambition, but he does make good use of his powers when they are needed. In an alternate reality, after witnessing a zombified Spider-Man's actions, Sandman disassembles himself into sand grains, infiltrates Spider-Man's body, and expands, causing the hero to bloat and ultimately explode from the inside. Sandman's abilities extend to molecular level control over his body. He can disassemble into sand particles, reassemble at will, alter his size and shape, and manipulate his body density, making him virtually indestructible. This control allows him to reform from any injury and render himself impervious to attacks by adjusting his body density. But as powerful as he may be, he has a pretty simple weakness: water. When his sandy form comes into contact with significant amounts of water or liquid, can cause his particles to become saturated, making it difficult for him to maintain his cohesion or reform his body. Marco's daughter, Kimia, has also been depicted as a vulnerability for Sandman. Kimia has not been used as a narrative element to explore Sandman's human side, and this often prompts him to play the anti-hero. Maxwell Dillon, better known as Electro, has persistently been a nemesis for Spider-Man ever since his debut appearance in The Amazing Spider-Man issue 9 in 1964. Once an electrical engineer, Dillon's life took a drastic turn when struck by lightning, transforming him into a human superconductor capable of generating up to 1,000,000 volts of electricity from his body. This immense power makes him a formidable adversary not only for Spider-Man but for virtually anyone who crosses his path. He proved to be a formidable foe, rendering Spider-Man unable to touch him without being zapped. Defeating Electro typically requires special rubber modifications to Spidey's suit. Electro has repeatedly resurfaced in pursuit of personal glory and seeking revenge on Spider-Man, and ironically, he was directly responsible for forming a new team of Avengers. Using his electric powers, Electro triggered a massive explosion causing a breakout at the maximum security prison known as the Raft, releasing the supervillains imprisoned there. The resulting breakout brought together iconic heroes like Captain America, Iron Man, Luke Cage, and Spider-Man, who formed a new team to address the crisis. Electro uses his powers to gain notoriety and to attract some attention. Adrian Toomes, also known as the Vulture, despite his advanced age, stands as another founding member of the Sinister Six and poses a significant threat to Spidey. His intelligence and possession of a high-tech flight suit grant him enhanced strength and make him a formidable adversary. Despite his age, Vulture's intelligence and experience in engineering and technology often give him an edge. He strategizes and uses his technological prowess to outsmart Spider-Man by setting traps or creating situations where the webhead would be at a permanent disadvantage. Notably, he is among the few antagonists who have uncovered Spider-Man's true identity, making him an even greater threat to Peter. However, it was Michael Keaton's remarkable portrayal of the character in Homecoming that truly emphasized the depth of this villain. Since his debut in The Amazing Spider-Man issue 3 in 1963, Doc Ock has not only emerged as one of Spider-Man's greatest adversaries, but has also become one of the most compelling villains in the Marvel Universe. Over the years, Doc Ock has engaged in numerous intense and brutal confrontations with Spider-Man, impacting the development of both Spidey and Peter Parker as a character and a hero. One notable instance demonstrating this influence occurred in the Superior Spider-Man storyline. During their battle, Dr. Octopus manages to swap minds with Peter Parker, leaving Peter's consciousness in Octavius's dying body while Octavius's mind inhabits Peter's body. With Peter's memories and experiences, Dr. Octopus becomes determined to prove himself as a superior Spider-Man. This anti-hero arc is also present in movies like Spider-Man 2 and Spider-Man No Way Home. But at the end of the day, he's a villain, and as a founder of the Sinister Six and a leader of the Masters of Evil, Doc Ock knows what it takes to wreak havoc. And finally, for the top spot, we have Norman Osborn, aka Green Goblin. This should come as the impact he's had on Peter is rivaled only by the death of Uncle Ben. Right off the bat, Norman, being the father of Peter's once best friend, Harry, creates an emotional conflict when he dons the creepy green mask and glider and starts blowing things up. Despite everything he put Peter through, nothing was more tragic than the storyline presented in The Amazing Spider-Man number 121, where Norman is indirectly responsible for the death of Gwen Stacy. During their battle on a bridge, the Goblin throws Gwen off the bridge, and when Spider-Man tries to save her by catching her with a web line, the sudden stop results in her accidental death. This was mimicked in The Amazing Spider-Man 2, but with Harry Osborn instead of Norman. The events of that story have haunted Peter ever since and forever altered how he approached his role as a hero. Green Goblin's presence has died down since Spider-Man No Way Home. He's already done more than enough to secure his status as the greatest Spider-Man villain of all time. Do you have a favorite among these formidable villains? Is there a powerful antagonist that didn't make it onto the list? Share your thoughts in the comment section, and don't forget to subscribe to the channel.